For decades, New York City has been an entry point for travelers from all over the world. In particular, John F. Kennedy International Airport, often called JFK, serves as a primary link to one of the most active and influential cities on Earth. But if you've ever set foot in JFK, you've probably noticed the aging terminals, confusing road loops, and long security lines that can make the experience less than ideal. These problems have become more apparent as air travel rebounds and demand climbs, especially for international flights. Now, city and state leaders, along with private investors, are putting nearly $19 billion into a wide-ranging renovation. Their goal is to turn JFK back into a top-tier global airport, one that's modern, efficient, and easier to navigate. Today at Ultimate Megabuilds, we'll explore the airport's background, the issues that spurred this massive revamp, and how the various projects are shaping up. JFK sits on 5,200 acres in Queens, about 15 miles from Manhattan. It handles over 62 million passengers each year, making it one of the busiest airports in the United States. More than half of those travelers are flying internationally, giving JFK the highest volume of international passengers of any US airport. It has 4 runways, multiple terminals, and a reputation for bringing people from all corners of the planet into the heart of America's biggest city. This status as a global hub goes back to the airport's roots. Built on the site of the Idlewild Golf Course, the airport first opened in 1948 under the name Idlewild Airport. After a decade of operation, different airlines began designing their own terminals, leading to famous structures like the TWA Flight Center by architect Eero Saarinen. In 1963, the airport was renamed John F. Kennedy International Airport in honor of the late president. Back then, it was a symbol of the jet age, featuring sleek architecture and optimism about air travel. Over the decades, however, its mishmash of terminals, each run by different airlines, became clunky and confusing for passengers to navigate. In the early 2000s, renovations to some terminals helped a bit, but they never solved the core problem. The airport lacked a unified layout. Travelers often had to board the air train to move from one terminal to another, and road signage could be baffling. As passenger numbers kept rising, these underlying design flaws caused more aggravation. With estimates suggesting that JFK could handle up to 100 million passengers a year by 2050, big changes were essential. If you've ever passed through JFK during peak travel periods or major holidays, you've likely encountered long security lines, overcrowded waiting areas, and road traffic that feels almost endless. Many of the airport's older facilities also fall short of modern standards for comfort, technology, and environmental efficiency. Recognizing that small-scale fixes were no longer sufficient, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which operates JFK under a lease from the City of New York, decided to pursue a major overhaul. Part of this vision focuses on increasing gate capacity and upgrading check-in halls, security checkpoints, and baggage systems so travelers aren't stuck in never-ending queues. In tandem with these internal improvements, new dining spaces, shopping options, and lounges will aim to give passengers a taste of New York's cultural diversity, all while creating a more pleasant and engaging pre-flight experience. Crucially, the airport's extensive network of roadways will be redesigned into a simpler loop to reduce the confusion that often plagues drivers and ride-shares alike. Plans also include large rooftop solar installations and other measures to lower energy consumption, showcasing a renewed commitment to sustainability. The redevelopment involves 4 major terminal projects, some new, some expanded, and a handful of big infrastructure changes to roads, parking, and utilities. All of these are happening at the same time, which means travelers can expect a shifting landscape of construction walls, rerouted traffic, and updated signs. Of all the plans, the new Terminal 1 stands out as the biggest and most expensive, costing nearly $10 billion. It replaces the existing Terminal 1 and the sites of the old Terminals 2 and 3. Once completed, the new Terminal 1 will cover about 2.6 million square feet and offer 23 gates, 22 of them are large enough for wide-body jets like the Airbus A380. Construction will happen in phases. The first 14 gates should open in 2026, and the entire project is scheduled to wrap up by 2030. Inside, passengers can look forward to a massive check-in area, a security checkpoint the size of a football field, and plenty of dining and shopping choices. Designers are also emphasizing sustainability, with over 13,000 solar panels planned for the terminal roof. These panels could supply around half of the terminal's power needs. The hope is to set a new standard for energy use and passenger comfort in major airports. Terminal 4 was already a more modern part of JFK, but it's still getting a $1.5 billion upgrade. Recent work has added 10 new gates, mostly serving narrower body aircraft for regional routes. However, these gates can be adapted for bigger jets if needed. Upgrades also include sprucing up the check-in halls, widening drop-off points, and installing more advanced security screening gear. Much of this work is already done, with only a few finishing touches left. Terminal 4's modern design and expanded capacity are intended to ease the load on other terminals, especially as construction ramps up elsewhere. Another big piece is the newly built Terminal 6, rising on the space that used to be Terminals 6 and 7. This $4.2 billion project will give JFK 1.2 million more square feet of terminal capacity, plus 10 gates, 9 of which can handle wide-body jets. Terminal 6 will connect directly to Terminal 5, currently used by JetBlue, through a simple walkway or corridor, cutting down transfer times. Planned features include modern baggage handling systems, clearer signage, and lounges for both premium and economy travelers. The project will be split into 2 phases. The first 5 gates should open by 2026, and the rest should be ready by 2028. Terminal 8 recently finished a $400 million renovation in 2022, but additional work is on the horizon. The plan is to create a large central hall with more than 60 shops and restaurants. Many of these outlets will be local favorites, giving travelers a taste of New York's diverse food and retail scene. These upgrades aim to keep Terminal 8 in step with the newer facilities going up around it. While terminal expansions tend to grab the headlines, the roads and infrastructure around JFK also need serious attention. The airport's current 5-loop road system is complicated and can cause huge backups. With $3.9 billion in funds, the Port Authority aims to transform these 5 loops into a 3-loop layout, which should reduce driver confusion and improve traffic flow. They also plan to install advanced traffic technologies like better digital signs and real-time roadway monitoring. Parking is getting an upgrade too. A new ground transportation centre with about 2,000 parking spaces will be built. There will also be a 400-foot pedestrian bridge linking the centre to terminals, complete with a separate bike lane. These changes are important because an easier driving and parking setup helps cut down on congestion, and they might also encourage some travellers to bike or walk if they live nearby. JFK belongs to New York City, but it's operated by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey through a long-term lease. The Port Authority is investing $3.9 billion for the roads and infrastructure portion of the overhaul, around 20% of the total cost. The rest comes from private investors. These investors are motivated by the chance to operate the terminals once they're built, giving them revenue streams from airline fees, retail leases, and parking. Since JFK serves over 60 million passengers annually, and that figure is expected to grow, it's a potentially lucrative proposition. However, some travellers and consumer advocates worry that private operators might charge higher fees to airlines, which could eventually mean pricier tickets. Any large fee changes do require sign-off from the Port Authority, so there's at least some oversight. By contrast, airports run directly by local governments, like San Francisco International, don't aim for profit in the same way, potentially keeping costs more stable. Even with all this money and effort, some critics argue that the project might not go far enough to connect JFK seamlessly to the rest of New York City. The air train is helpful for moving around airport grounds and linking to certain train routes, but many travelers find it inconvenient when heading into Manhattan, Brooklyn or Queens. Improving these transit links could reduce the need for car-based travel, especially during rush hour. Another concern is that the number of new gates, while significant, might still fall short of future needs. If passenger demand swells more quickly than expected, or if international travel picks up dramatically, JFK might find itself at or near capacity sooner than anticipated. That said, the Port Authority believes that expansions will handle growth well into the next few decades. Construction timing is another factor. Building or renovating multiple terminals at once while redoing roads and parking inevitably causes detours and delays. People flying through JFK during this period may face changes in pick-up and drop-off routes, new signage, and the sounds of heavy equipment. The Port Authority says it's staggering the work so that each step has minimal effect on overall operations, but anyone who's visited JFK lately can attest that it's a work in progress. If everything goes as planned, by the early 2030s, JFK could look and feel vastly different. The sleek new Terminal 1, expanded Terminal 4 and state-of-the-art Terminal 6, along with an updated Terminal 8, should give the airport a consistent and modern vibe. Meanwhile, streamlined roads, clearer signs and improved parking could make driving or taking a taxi there much less stressful. This transformation isn't just about aesthetics or convenience. New York City's economy depends on the smooth flow of travelers both from other parts of the US and around the world. With an expected surge in passenger numbers, especially for international flights, JFK has to keep pace with competitor airports in Europe, the Middle East and Asia that are pushing the envelope on efficiency and comfort. Maintaining a truly global airport could help New York stay competitive in fields like finance, technology and tourism. Well, that's all we have for this mega airport update. Let us know what you think about this upgrade. And don't forget to subscribe to Ultimate Megabuilds for more fascinating projects around the world. We'll be back soon with another exciting video.